All right. So let's go ahead and get started. If you want to, go ahead and drop in the chat where you are, what you sell. I would love to hear or share your Instagram handle with us so that we can follow up afterwards. So today, just a little bit of an overview of how this will go. Grab a pen and notebook if you do not already have one. You're going to want to take some notes because we are actually going to be doing some training and talking real strategies in this session. Use the chat box for any questions. We went ahead and just set that up instead of a Q&A. So as things occur to you as we go along, drop them. And then at the end, we'll go into a full-on Q&A and coaching session, and I'll answer any questions that come up. And make sure you stay till the end because we actually are going to be opening the doors to Built to Scale today. And I have not one, but two special bonuses for you all. So, what we're covering today. First, most importantly, we're going to learn the single trap that keeps most product businesses stuck. The shift that changes literally everything inside your product business. And then I have three proven strategies that my clients and I both use to double sales in our business year over year. And then finally, how to implement the strategy and the rest of the Built to Scale framework in 6 months. So tell me if any of this sounds even vaguely familiar. Your sales are inconsistent. 1 month, everything looks okay. The next month, though, it's a little bit slower than it should, but you can't actually pinpoint why or what's different. There's no one real clear variable to you that's causing the inconsistency in your sales. So maybe you keep adding products. This is really common, but revenue isn't growing the way that it should. And it's becoming a lot to keep track of because you've added so many products, let alone finding the time and resources to market them all. And you're busy all of the time, but you're not sure that you're actually working on the right things to move the business forward. But it literally feels like you are working 24/7. You have products listed on marketplaces, maybe Etsy, Amazon, Faire, Walmart, any of those, but you aren't actually getting many sales. You might be even seeing that products that are really similar, or frankly not as good as yours, are getting far more sales than you are on the platform, and you're not really sure why. It also could be that you're not getting impressions on the platform. So what we mean is your products are not ranking, they're not showing up in search results the way that they should. So customers don't even have a chance to see them, let alone click into the listing to learn more. Maybe wholesale sounded like a really viable solution for you, but in practical application, it's a little bit confusing. You're not sure what buyers actually want. Why do some stores reorder and others don't? How to really just grow wholesale without constantly chasing down and cold pitching new accounts. You might even see the potential in your business. Like you just know it could be bigger, more stable, more profitable. You're not entirely sure how to get there, and you kind of keep giving it a few more months or another year, as the case may be. Maybe you see other brands with really similar products and they're growing like crazy. Maybe the two of you all even started up around the same time, and you're frustrated because your sales seem to be stuck while they seem to be growing indefinitely. What you really want is just consistent and predictable sales month over month for your products to be found organically by customers and retailers who are excited to buy without needing to dole out money for paid ads. And a step-by-step plan and repeatable retail and wholesale strategies so that your time and energy go to what actually matters in the business instead of the next thing that feels like it's on fire every day. So, if we have not met yet, my name is Jen Boston. I have over 20 years business and operations experience. I actually worked in the public sector in government as the executive director of a multi-regional 911 center. And that is a lot of times I talk about operations, and business owners don't necessarily understand kind of what that looks like in their business. It's learning to quickly identify inefficiencies in a business where systems are creating an issue and quickly correct them. That's kind of the basis of operations. And it has served me so well, not just now, but when I founded my own product brand. So at 38, because you aren't too old to pivot at any time. I founded my own product brand, scaled it, and profitably sold it in less than 5 years. So I then immediately founded How She Scales to provide other female founders with the business skills to scale and if they wanted to sell a business to start to build wealth for themselves and their families. So, what we're going to talk about today is the exact framework that I use to build, scale, and sell my own product business. It's what I use to help my clients to double their revenue. I'll share some of their stories with you, and we'll get into it. So, I want to start with this single belief that's keeping you stuck. I promise we're not going woo woo. The reality is that until you can shift the perspective on this, you'll keep believing it and it will keep you from increasing sales and growth in your business. You will remain stuck. And that is, I just need more visibility. And here's the thing about this. I hear it from businesses all the time. They're tired of being kept a best kept secret. They just need more eyes on their products. They resort to social media because they think it's a matter of like growing their audience there, or they need more people to see their listing on marketplaces, again, Amazon, Etsy, Fair, all of those. And this is a really tempting thought to have, a belief. You want to like swaddle it in a blanket and read it a bedtime story because it's so comforting. Because if it's just a lack of eyeballs, a lack of traffic, a lack of visibility, that feels so easy to resolve. And it means that you can kind of stay in this place without having to acknowledge that there might be something deeper going on with the business. This is usually the first thing that people think is, I just need to get products in front of more people. And that belief is actually hindering them because it's impacting their thoughts about the business and then the actions that they're taking from it as well. So let's talk about that. When you believe that it's just a matter of visibility, you just need more visibility, you tell yourself, if more people saw my products, sales would take care of themselves. My products are great. They're just not getting enough eyes yet. Retailers would order if they just knew about me. Once I grow my following, everything will get easier. This is how you end up losing so much time on the never ending hamster wheel of social media. It's like the worst amusement park ride, and no one wins. You might think I don't have a sales problem, I just have a traffic problem. Or once I fix visibility, the rest will fall into place. And then what happens is it leaves you feeling like you're constantly chasing the next tactic or strategy. You may find one of my clients actually who had just begun working with me said, I think I bought 40 courses in January. If you can relate, let me know. But that's what happens because you're like, okay, maybe this is the thing. You get really anxious whenever your sales slow down. You might be stuck in comparison mode, like we talked about before. You're watching these other companies grow faster, and it's really frustrating. And you can't, but also you're borderline low key obsessed and you can't stop watching them. You might be unclear on what to fix. So you keep trying everything. And the problem now is like you're messing with too many things all of the time. So we have too many variables. You might feel really disappointed that your effort isn't matching your results. You feel like you're showing up every day consistently. You literally have nothing left to give, and your results aren't reflecting that. You feel really defeated and overwhelmed in your business. So, what you end up doing from this place is adding more products instead of fixing what isn't selling. That's always our go to move. Avoiding deeper changes that really are required in the business because visibility feels a heck of a lot easier to control. You're ignoring pricing, positioning, or product mix issues because traffic feels like the problem. Jumping from one marketing tactic to the next, hoping something finally works. Is it TikTok? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? Maybe I should be on Substack. You're reacting to slow sales instead of planning ahead. So you're in this constant reactionary mode, and it's being driven by these other feelings and thoughts that you're having. You're working really hard during slow periods instead of working more strategically. Okay, here's the truth. Y'all, I've worked with countless businesses. I've been doing this for years. Sales will only increase once you have a wholesale and retail ready business. The visibility is secondary. It does not matter until these other foundations are in place. So, When I talk about a retail ready product business, I mean a focused and cohesive product line with clear hero products. You don't have an overloaded catalog of products that are competing for attention, really clear product positioning. So this is a skip that, or step that's skipped, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in strategy. This identifies where your product fits into the larger commercial market and immediately conveys the value of the product to buyers and retailers. Product positioning is one of the steps that many small businesses that are not, they have no external funding or private equity coming into their business. They use their own money and they bootstrapped it. It's very common that those businesses skip this step. So please don't feel bad if this is you. It happens often. A business planned around real retail and wholesale buying and selling cycles. So there are actually buying, selling, markdown cycles when things naturally should be occurring versus last minute launches and product drops. Or maybe you launch a product when you have a new idea, something like this. Once you start to just situate the timing of when you're doing things, the tiniest bit, your sales will immediately increase because you're getting products out there at the right time to the right people. And then products and collections that are designed to support recurring reorders, not just one-time sales. Customer acquisition can be very expensive. We always want you to have a built-in strategy to continue selling to the same customers over and over again. This is how the sales become much more natural. Once you start to accept this, your mindset is really going to shift. You'll start to think, okay, if I fix my product line, sales will follow. Strategic planning beats ad spend every time. One of the first things I do with clients frequently is ask them to please stop running paid ads and just like hit pause on that for a second because they inevitably haven't done the foundational work that is necessary before you run paid ads to things. And so you're just throwing away good money after bad. So you start to think, maybe I don't need more visibility. I just need more clarity on what to fix or how my product is positioned in the market matters. And then you start to realize the changes that are needed. And you will start to feel a little bit differently about running your business at this point. It's a relief because it feels like you finally are clear on what the actual problem is. You're not kind of fumbling around in the dark trying to find the answer anymore. Calmer because you know there really is a path forward, a step-by-step path forward, and reassured that your business is finally buildable. You feel excited to step off the constant content hamster wheel. I hate that hamster wheel so much. There are no words. I've scaled both my product business and this agency without relying heavily on social media. You can absolutely do the same if you pull these other levers instead. You feel less reactive when sales start to fluctuate. You start to recognize the natural fluctuations throughout the year and plan for it accordingly. And you feel like you're in control of your own growth finally. This changes how you show up in your business massively. You're simplifying your product line instead of constantly adding more products. When you do that, every time you add a new product, your profitability dips because of the materials needed, the sales assets, the listings that have to be built, the packaging that's required, and you're not doing that anymore. You're making decisions based on actual data, not panic or emotion. You're planning ahead instead of reacting to low sales. You're designing products and collections with the selling cycle and reorders in mind in advance. And you're positioning your brand clearly so buying feels easy to customers now. It's no longer an uphill battle because it's so apparent the value that you offer. And you're building momentum through consistency, not through urgency. So let's get into the three proven strategies that my clients use and I've used to double our sales year over year. Number one, the foundation of this is the retail and wholesale buying calendar. Why this matters. So, sales become really consistent and much easier when your business is aligned with how and when people and retailers actually buy your products. So, retail customers, and when I say that, I always mean B2C, right? So, you are selling directly to a customer or a retailer is selling directly to a customer. They buy in patterns. We can look at existing data and see exactly when these patterns are down to nearly the day of every year. And this is something that is frequently challenging for businesses because they're coming in way too late and setting up the projects in their businesses that need to run just far too late in the year. So they miss these sales, but they miss opportunities. Wholesale buyers purchase on calendars. They have very set purchasing calendars. If you are here, you have probably heard me talk about this, but let's beat that horse again. So the wholesale peak buying season start in January and July. In January, we know that wholesale customers are buying everything for spring and summer. You're not selling them Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day, or even product that they're going to be selling if it's non-seasonal during February and March, during that time. They bought that. They bought that back in fall. It's already done. So if you're promoting to them at that time, you've already missed the boat. And then in July, they're buying everything for fall, winter, and the holiday. So that means we have to back up your entire calendar. So this goes back to your product ideation when you're coming up with new products, producing them, getting the photography done. If you have to have packaging created, we're getting that done, creating the sales ads for it. So it can all be in place and ready to sell in, let's say, in this case, July. So let's say we're talking about Christmas products. We've done everything already and we're selling it in July. And just adapting your business to this calendar will make a massive difference in your sales. I actually recommend this even if at this stage you don't plan to sell wholesale. You're not currently selling wholesale. It's important that you adhere to this calendar from the beginning because often I have clients right now who came to me and had no intention on selling wholesale, and now they are selling wholesale. When you have a good product and people know about it, stores will seek you out and they will ask where they can place an order for the product. So oftentimes that actually is how a business begins selling wholesale. They're almost recruited by retailers who want to carry their products. So I want to make sure you have all of this in place and you're already functioning on this calendar in advance. If your product releases, your promotions, and your outreach aren't aligned to these cycles, sales will always suffer, no matter how visible you are. So again, it's not visibility. It's doing the right things at the right time. A selling and a buying calendar turns sales from something that you hope happen into something you can plan for on an annual basis. I have a client, Carol, who I'm going to share her story with you a little bit later. But we just finished our annual planning session and we were talking about her strategic plan for this year, additional skills that would be needed, any major projects that were happening. And she basically said, my plan is the same as it was last year. Because we've gotten everything moved up to where she knows exactly when product drops need to be happening, what her positioning is, her niche, what platforms to lean into. And now it's literally just a rinse and repeat process. And once you adapt to the schedule, that's what it looks like every year. It can get boring, but that's how you know you're doing it right. So the truth is that most product brands are releasing products way too late. And that is why they're often missing out on sales. So before you implement this strategy, you launch products when they're ready or when you think of them, not when the demand is highest. Maybe you're promoting when sales slow down instead of planning ahead. You might miss out on sales, opportunities, chances to be featured in swag bags by media, by influencers, things like that, because influencers work even further in advance of this calendar. So they already have sold the products that you kind of pop up and are ready to start selling during the sell through season. So we need to be getting to them much further in advance. You're constantly in product development mode instead of selling, or you're constantly asking, what should I sell next? The reality is, creating new products is just such a small portion of the business. The bulk of it is spent in the fulfillment and delivery and the selling of the products. So after you implement this, your product releases align with real customer buying behavior that naturally drives sales. Your promotions are going to start to feel really intentional instead of rushed. So you're not thinking, oh my gosh, it's almost Christmas. I need to start pushing products as gifts. Wholesale outreach happens before buyers are ordering. Sales follow a rhythm that you can anticipate on a yearly basis. You know exactly what you're selling each quarter and when you're selling it. So I want to share a case study of a client with you. Her name is Sarah. She had a very niche journal. that was getting monthly sales when she came to me, but hadn't maximized the full potential of the product yet. So first, we started by adapting the retail calendar for her category. Now, she was actually in the sports category, so this made this really interesting. We knew Q4 was big for her because people were buying her items as gifts. So yes, she had that kind of natural Q4 peak. But more importantly, the bulk of the sales followed the sports seasons. So and we do this for every client, every product individually because it is different for everyone. And you will not know this until you learn the messaging and the keywords that your customer is using, because that's how we start to identify what the peak buying seasons are. We can see when the searches start, we can see when the sales are happening. So once we did this, we identified peak seasons for each of her items, and then we planned her promotion, her release calendar, and her production schedule because they manufactured overseas accordingly. And so we had this massive 12, we're usually working with about a 12-month calendar for you all. So you can see exactly when these things need to be happening and you're not feeling rushed. Like she was paying a lot of rush shipping fees to have things sent by air instead of by boat because it would take too long because they needed them too quickly, things like that. We were able to eliminate all of that. So it also immediately increases your profit in addition to the sales. We used keyword research to find specific messaging with really strong demand. So one of the mistakes we will talk about this. One of the mistakes that businesses make is they use their own words for products. If you've ever tried to like sell a product on Amazon or on Etsy or Fair, something like that, and no one is seeing it, you're not using the same words as the customer. So we dive deep into finding the exact phrasing, no matter how bizarre it may be, that customers are searching on each platform for her products. And then we were able to rewrite all of the listings so that she immediately ranked better. And that is your visibility. That is when customers start to see you. You're shown to the customers that are specifically seeking out your product. She elevated her packaging and then her photos to better position the product and convey its quality before a customer ever clicked on her listing. So the number one is getting you rank on platforms, but once you're ranking there, we have to get people to click. If they're seeing your listing, so you're getting impressions, and most platforms will tell you this now, but they're not clicking, that means your product is not standing out over the products they're seeing on the page, and there is a problem. And so we have to identify what that is. This way, we got more people into her listing. And once they were there, she easily started converting more. Sarah increased her sales 300% in the first Q4 after she made these changes, and then doubled her year over year sales from 2024 to 2025. She is knocking it out of the park, and they are continuing to grow. Okay, the second strategy of product positioning. I've talked about this a little. It's underrated. So, product positioning isn't just about describing your product, it's about where your brand fits into the larger marketplace. When your positioning isn't clear, customers hesitate, retailers do not reorder, and sales rely on constant promotions to move products. Your strong positioning is one that helps customers and retailers to instantly understand why your product exists, who it's for, how it's different, without needing more explanation and promotion. But it goes beyond that. Part of product positioning is your pricing. And we find oftentimes that businesses have entered this the wrong way with their pricing. Maybe they utilized a pricing formula and they took their cost of goods and multiplied it a few times over, and that was the price they set it at. Instead of doing product research and competitor research, if you will. So looking at the other products in their market and understanding the unique selling proposition of each one of those, and then deciding from all of the price points in that category where you should be selling in the market. Because you can't, for example, sell a high-end luxury product and have DIY packaging, photos on your kitchen counter, and expect the product to sell well. It has to be positioned according to the price point and the place in the market. And if you don't do this intentionally, customers will do this for you. So really, we're backing up here and seeing what is selling, what is happening in the larger marketplace. And this, a lot of times, if you find yourself in this situation, what probably occurred is you started out kind of in a vacuum, creating the product and listing it for sale and selling it. You didn't realize you would get as big as what you are, or you would sell as many products as you are or hope to, and that you would one day be on these more commercial retail shelves. So we start by looking at what's selling in those places. Amazon is great for this. If we know that you have a specific retailer that you want to sell in, We do the work of analyzing the products that are being sold at those retailers, their price point, their features, etc. All of that is the work of product positioning. And this is so crucial before you ever launch a single product. So a lot of brands skip this work. They didn't do the market research initially, and so they didn't intentionally get to choose their position in the market before they launched their product. So this does mean in many cases we need to do a little bit of zhuzhing. It does not necessarily mean that you need to lower your price or raise your price. It means that we just need a clear picture of how your product matches up to the other products that are being sold in the space. What unique problems are you solving? What is your unique value proposition? And how can we convey all of that with your sales assets and your marketing tools, right? So these are photos, these are imagery, your packaging, the language that you're using in your listings, all of these things. That is how we start to position your product. So before you implement product positioning, product line might feel a little bit cluttered. Customers are going to browse, but they're probably not going to convert. Retailers might place small orders or they don't reorder. You might find that you're having to rely heavily on discounts or run promotions to drive sales. We've seen this with some of our clients. Your products feel really interchangeable with others in your category. So if I asked you, okay, tell me what is different about your candle brand from these 20 other candle brands, you need to be able to do that. And it needs to be a compelling reason for customers, not just an important story to you. And that's always a shift that we need to make as well. You might struggle to explain in a way that customers and retailers can really easily understand what makes your brand stand out. This is very important. We had a client that I was working with recently who had some very large accounts with grocery lines. And in order to kind of justify the space on the shelf for each brand, that had to be really speaking to a specific demographic of customer. So you have to know who that is and what is important to them. And that's all part of your larger positioning. So after you implement this, your products are going to have really clear roles in your collection. Your hero products are going to naturally anchor sales. Customers are going to understand your value without you having to heavily over explain it. Retailers will reorder because the line starts to really make sense on the shelves and sells itself. Your pricing feels really confident, consistent, and justified. So there's no question. This item obviously warrants the price point that it's being sold at. And your brand has a clear place in the market. So if you've ever had customers questioning your price or getting a little pushback on that, it's usually a positioning issue. The problem, too expensive is not really a thing. It's that the customer doesn't see the value in the product that you're selling. This is the work of showing them that value. So I have a client case study, Carol. So proud of Carol. Oh my gosh, her business has grown so much in the last year. So she's a greeting card company. She does hand painted greeting cards. She's an artist. She had so many, all the SKUs, 1 million may have been thrown down at some point, but she had countless SKUs on her product line. So our solution was we evaluated the existing market for white space opportunities that only she could fill with niche products that we knew were best sellers in her product line. So what we do with every client in Built to Scale is we analyze every single product that you have. Now, some only have a few, and then some have a million. And so we go through them and we pull the numbers on how many are sold on each platform on a monthly basis for the last 12 months minimum. And we put them all into a spreadsheet or a graph so you can really see what's happening. And we know which SKUs to focus on. We know which ones are the most profitable for you. So we did that work for her. Now, when we talk about white space in the market, a white space is where a need is not being met. There's more demand than there is supply. This was actually how I created the products for my own product business. I specifically sought out a white space, a need that was not being met, and I just kind of popped up and filled that need. Sales are so much easier when you're offering a solution that isn't previously available to customers. So in her case, we just focused on these products. We didn't focus on overhauling all of her SKUs. If she had them for sale, in her case, she had them listed on Etsy. and was also selling wholesale. So we just left them on Etsy. They're fine. They're not hurting anything. But what we worked on was these best sellers that were super niche and where someone else was not offering a solution to this problem. So she positioned her products and her price at the higher end of the market intentionally. I think when she was selling them retail, I think the bulk of the listings were on Etsy. I don't even think they were at $5. I think she was still at the 450, 475 mark when we started working together. And now we're selling her products for up to 8.99 for a folded piece of paper. And it's been phenomenal to watch her growth. So she also adopted the retail and the wholesale selling calendar that we talked about. And then she outsourced her printing to a printer that would also package and kit. If you have products that have multiple pieces, it's called kitting. Somebody will put them in the package or they'll assemble them all together for you. And she outsourced all of that for the first time. And so then she really leaned into the retail and selling and wholesale selling calendar to make sure that she was printing and promoting these products much earlier than she had previously. So, as basically, if you come in when searches are just beginning for your product, and it doesn't have to be a holiday or season, it could just be, it'll be based on the words that customers are using to look for you. They will go up and down at different times of the year. We teach our clients to come in when there's barely any search volume at the beginning, regardless of what platform they're selling on. And then that way they kind of ride a wave of momentum in through the highest selling week of the season, which will often be right prior to an event, a holiday, an occasion, something like that, or when it just naturally starts to kind of descend. And so she's able to leverage that momentum in every peak season in her business. She is a very seasonal business because it is greeting cards. So different items will peak during different times of year. And this way, she already has a map of that. We have it laid out. We know exactly when it starts. We know exactly when it peaks, and then who still continues to buy afterwards. So there's no question as to what she's focusing on at any given time. Carol more than doubled her, well over doubled her sales from 2024 to 2025. Within just a couple of months of us working together, I remember she came to me and said that she had just made an additional $31,000 that month than what she had previously. It's phenomenal. And it wasn't major changes in her business, but it was taking the time to look at some things that maybe she hadn't focused on before. And her willingness to do that has absolutely paid off. She just keeps increasing her revenue month over month. Okay, number three, product and brand messaging. I've had a lot of people reach out and say they think they need to work on their brand messaging, but here's the reality. Your product messaging and your product positioning should come first because your customers who find you, be it that they find their way to your website or more likely they find you on a third-party sales platform for the first time, need to understand the product. Visibility only works when the right people are paying attention. And in order for that to happen, we have to learn the language of your customer. Every business and every product has different language for their customers. This is the difference between people finding you and not finding you. So you need to really learn how to climb into the mind of your buyers and use the same words that they do to describe your product. So most brands that aren't getting sales, they just haven't learned the terminology their customers use to describe their product. They're trying to use their own words, which are not the same. So it's not resonating. And this can be the title, this can be how you describe things in your listing, it could be how you're showing up on social and talking about your products. If these are not the words that they use, they are going to skip by because they don't think that you understand their problem. Customer messaging is about attracting buyers and retailers that are already problem aware and ready to buy so that your marketing supports your sales instead of feeling like a whole separate exhausting job for you. Because this language will be used everywhere. You will research it and learn it once, and then it will just be reiterated. Your messaging also informs your keywords, which we talked about a little bit here. A lot of this comes back to keywords. You can think of messaging and keywords sort of interchangeably. Once you have this dialed in, your products will be shown to more people, to the right people. And this makes all the difference. What I see a lot is, for example, a brand who is struggling to sell on Amazon. And then we look at their listing and then we check data to see what the search volume is because in most places there is software available. If not, the platforms will allow us to see what people are searching. And then we see that the phrases they're using in their listing are not remotely the same as what the customers are using. And that's the number one fix. We have to first make sure that you're using their words because otherwise when they search those words, you are not going to show up in search results. This is really, it's SEO in general. The same works on Google. But every platform and every marketing or social media channel has its own algorithm. So understanding algorithms in different places becomes very important, which is why we try to really intentionally choose where you're going to be selling. So you know where to focus your efforts first on that particular algorithm. Now, one of the biggest issues that I see is that you all are so much the expert in your business. You could teach classes on the products that you make because you've put so much work into studying the product, iterating the product, and you're such an expert at this point. But if you talk to them in that expert language, you use any sort of lingo that is commonly used in the industry. Some people will start to default to acronyms and things like that. We've just lost the customer completely. If there's something in there that they don't understand, it's not going to have any value to them. A lot of listings, let's see, for example, textiles and clothing, they might choose to start talking about the fabric makeup. Well, the problem is the general consumer does not understand the benefits to certain fabric makeups. And so first you have to educate them on that. And the reality is when they're looking to buy something, if they come into your listing, they are not there for a one-on-one 101 session in what makes high quality fabric. So we've kind of lost them already because you're hitting them at the wrong stage in the process. So there, we just need to speak to them, their needs, their wants, and what it is that they're seeking out. And we can do that education elsewhere, but that isn't where that would be taking place. And sometimes I think products will slip into this mode and if you have more time with the customer, let's say you're selling at a market, you can answer these questions and go a little bit deeper and explain why. No, 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 you don't want this, you want this. Let me tell you why. But for the most case, when you're selling online, you don't have that opportunity. And so we can't waste that time trying to do that. So we want the customer that's already problem aware. One of the things that we talk about a lot, because some of this SEO and messaging is very new to the businesses that I work with, is really starting to understand the search funnel, that this is being the obvious international symbol for funnel. At the top, it can be the searches are going to be very different than at the bottom. So at the top, a lot of people are still exploring, and some of you are using language to sell your products that are occurring at the exploring stage, where it could actually be happening on Google. Or maybe they go to Amazon and they're searching there for this phrasing, but they're just starting to dive into it. So a lot of times I'll use the women's shoes example. You could be targeting such generic and broad keywords that the reason your product isn't selling is they're still just researching. We want them further down the funnel. So I want you to think about Amazon's the best example here. You start on Amazon, you're looking for a pair of sandals, but you just type women's shoes in, and then that you realize they've shown you everything, right? There's stilettos, there's sneakers, it's insanity. So you start to narrow the search a little bit, and maybe you're like women's sandals, and then they show you sandals, and this occurs in every buying scenario. Customers don't buy after the first search. So we want to make sure that we're meeting them everywhere in our messaging at the end, that when their buyer intent is higher, they've narrowed their search, they're ready to make a purchase, and your product is the best fit for what they're typing into the search box. So it could continue down, and then they're like, well, I think brown strappy sandals. And then the longer tail, the better. But as you've gotten more specific, your conversion rate will be higher. We don't need all the visibility. We just need the customers looking at you that want to buy brown strappy sandals. And so in today's market where people are using AI, they're using Google, et cetera, search terms have gotten really long tail. And so that's going to be a big part of your product messaging is understanding they're nearly full sentences that people are searching nowadays. And this needs to be in your messaging. This will be used when you're selling retail and when you're selling wholesale because it's how people know that you are the most relevant product for what it is that they are seeking. So just keep in mind that when you are talking at your customers using phrases that mean nothing to them, they're not going to buy. It's not their fault. It just didn't feel like the right fit. You didn't speak to the thoughts that were in their head. But when you use their exact words and thoughts, sales are naturally going to follow because they're just going to be like, yes, that's exactly what I need. So before you start to implement product messaging, you're getting views, you're getting likes maybe, and possibly even some clicks, but not consistent sales on your website or sales platforms. Your messaging probably feels a little bit generic. Your products aren't being shown in marketplaces because you're not using the right terms. You're not even ranking for the right terms. You default to expert language in all of your sales copy, emails, social media listings, and it goes right over your customer's head. Retailers could be ignoring you because you're applying retail language to selling wholesale, and there's a shift there. So we have to be talking to a retailer based on their needs. The way they need and describe things is very different than your B2C customer, where you're selling directly to the person. The retailer is not the end customer. They need to know the product's going to sell. So we need to talk to them using words that they use. So we're doing research here as well about merchandising their store, ensuring that there will be sell through, that we have met all of the needs for educating their staff on the products, things like that. Customers also aren't sure what makes your product different than others. Because if you're using these generic terms, you probably haven't really started to dial in that messaging yet. But after you start to implement this, you've done this research, you're starting to use this language. Your messaging speaks directly to ready to buy customers. So they're at the bottom of that funnel. Their buyer intent is really high. They're ready to give the money over. It's just a matter of who it's going to. You'll increase conversions on your listings on all platforms when customers feel like you've read their mind. You literally have. We live in an era where there is software available that we can see the exact phrases they're searching and then we just give it back to them. It's all readily available for you if you know where to look. You'll attract customers and retailers who are a really good fit for your products and your price point. Your marketing, your listing optimization, and content creation feels so easy because you know what your customers need to hear now. Your products begin ranking on sales platforms because you're filling a search demand instead of just guessing at keywords. Okay, so I have another client case study I want to share with you. So Renee has a body care product that she described as being a best kept secret, and she was ready to break out of that. She was making consistent sales and had been in business for several years, but was ready to take the business to the next level and really start to increase her revenue. So we sorted through the sales history of her products. Again, we went by SKU, by platform, by month. This is an exercise we start with because this is how we know exactly what's happening in the business, where the money is coming from, and how. She was able to identify which products were bringing in the majority of her revenue. We saw in her case that she had gotten the advice to lean into your best sellers and had maybe leaned a little bit too far into her best sellers. So we started to question if she needed as many variations for each scent, for example, as what she currently had. But then we focused on market research to understand where her products really fit best in the market based on her product and her pricing. She then decided, based on what she was seeing, to overhaul her packaging to be more reflective of the luxury price point she was selling at. If you are trying to sell at a luxury price point, again, and you're doing it with less than stellar packaging. So maybe it was a DIY or template, something along those lines. It's going to create cognitive dissonance in the brain of the customer. So they're going to have friction because they're going to see this price and like something's not right because it is not conveying the value that you are charging. Then after that, she elevated all of her photos and her sales assets to match her new positioning in the market that she had intentionally selected. So she also was running a ton of promotions. I may or may not nearly have had a stroke when I looked through her numbers and realized that she was often at in-person markets offering a buy one, get one free option for certain things. And the problem is we look at our cost of goods and we think that those are our margins in the business. But if you are running promotions regularly, your margins are actually that after the promotion. And so you'll find that you're less profitable than what you actually realized you were because you were running so many sales. So in this case, we really reduced the number of promotions that she was running. Now she runs nearly none to increase her profit margins substantially. So we did not make a lot of changes to her business. And after, she has just had the highest grossing in-person markets in the history of her business. So, and this was after she stopped the discounts, which was interesting because she was going to the same markets that she had before, and she was a little concerned. I mean, if we're being honest, so was I, that the customers had been trained that they would get something free. And she didn't over explain. If anyone had purchased in the past, it was not an issue. And everything was full price and it performed incredibly well for her. She also achieved a monthly net profit of 50%. Okay, so this is rarely heard of in a product business because your net profit is after all of your monthly expenses. Everything's paid, I'm paid, the products are paid for. And she came in at 50% net profit, which was incredibly impressive. Also, sales reps are now seeking her out to rep her brand for her. So they are going to go represent her and pitch stores in a large region on her behalf so that she does not need to be chasing down retailers. And sales reps just take a small commission of only the sales that they get. She also outsourced her production for the first time of her body care products. She had previously been doing everything in-house when she came to me. And so part of what we worked on inside Built to Scale was her outsourcing. And there's a lot of hiccups when you outsource for the first time. So making sure that you have the protections in place when you're working with the manufacturer, things like that, a place to go to get a little bit of feedback if they're trying to pull one over on you or you're just not sure if they are and what they're asking is legitimate has been really helpful. So we talked this through on the live coaching calls with her. And again, her business is performing so well at this point. So if you're ready to double your sales in 2026, I can help you implement these strategies and more inside Built to Scale. So I just want to share a little bit about the program with you all, and then we'll go into Q&A if you have any questions. So Built to Scale is a 6 months results-driven business coaching and training program. I designed this exclusively to turn women-owned product-based businesses into retail-ready product lines that are built to scale. And if you want, to sell. We actually have one client in the current program who, after going through Built to Scale, has decided that she would actually like to sell the business. And so these are the conversations that we're having on our weekly calls all of the time, depending on what's happening. So if you're facing a big transformation, you want to pivot in your business, those are the discussions. So it's definitely higher level discussions than what you might have previously experienced in other programs. So let's start with the curriculum. So we're going to work in your product line. We're going to curate a really cohesive and profitable product line that will attract both retail and wholesale customers. We want you to focus on a core collection of evergreen products that anchor your business revenue year round so that you're not having like massive juxtapositions in your revenue from month to month. We learn how to use seasonal items, accent products, and add-ons to support your core collection, not distract from them. But also, if you have just a core collection, we do have clients that do that as well. These are not necessary. We just want to make sure you're not adding too many of them in. We really start to develop your products with merchandising in mind. This is how you're going to increase retail and wholesale orders. You'll stand out on marketplaces, your conversion rate will increase, and wholesalers will appreciate that you've done the work of seeing how the products are actually merchandised in the store environment. A lot of brands skip this step when they start selling wholesale. We're going to implement an effective product performance and SKU system that will scale with you as you grow so that your bookkeeping and your inventory management is super simple. And really, we want you to follow a repeatable framework. So we will give you one to launch each new product or collection throughout the year. The next is product positioning. So we're going to audit the market before you launch new products so that you know there's buyer demand and where you fit into the market before you ever spend a dime. We don't want you having dead inventory sitting on a shelf because this work didn't happen in advance. We'll really start to learn to identify gaps and white space in the market, like we talked about, how to identify white space in a market and make selling your products so much easier for you. It can feel like pushing a boulder uphill sometimes if you've not done this work. But if we know that you're coming in, you're solving an existing problem, filling an existing space in the market, selling is so much easier. You just have to show up and put the product in front of the customer who is looking for it. If it sounds too simple, it really is. So, we really want to define your unique selling proposition so that your product becomes the only option for shoppers. We don't want your product to be a commodity. Okay. So, a commodity is I could buy, this tumbler or another tumbler. There's really no clear differentiation between the two. Maybe I rely on price or reviews. We want to make sure that what we do is make it so clear to shoppers why you are the best option that there's no question. Pricing your products confidently so that your product is really your price is really in alignment with the value. So we talked about this with product positioning a little bit, but we need to make sure there's a clear reason. If you're selling, oftentimes this is in handmade items. If you're selling an item and the price is significantly higher than others in the space, we need to make sure that we've clearly justified that and conveyed the value to customers. Because we want you to really price confidently and profitably across sales and distribution channels. So your product brand planning system. I'm a planning girl at heart. I live and die by strategic planning. It is my favorite hobby. Um, we are going to learn the newest annual retail and wholesale buying cycle for your product category. I want to hang with this a second because if you have learned for wholesale from someone in the past who sold years ago, they may not have the most up-to-date information on the hybrid wholesale selling environment. And this has shifted since the introduction of sales platforms like Fair. So it's really important that we understand we're hitting both traditional buying in addition to now the digital wholesale world that is happening right now. So we spend a lot of time talking about that and how you can make sure that everything is aligned timing wise so that you're checking all of the boxes there. Create a release and sales calendar for both retail and wholesale to increase your revenue and product sell through, just like we did for the clients that I mentioned. This way, you'll learn exactly when to promote, release, sell through, and mark down your products for maximum profit each year. We'll help you to plan for projects, lead times, hiring, marketing, brand visibility so that you stop missing out on growth and sales opportunities. A lot of clients want to start having UGC, user generated content or influencer content done for them, but they're coming in so late that they've missed that opportunity. This will get you ahead of the curve on that so that those will start being viable options for you in case you would rather have someone else create content for you. You'll also build a 12-month business plan that integrates every layer of your business: product development, marketing, sales, inventory, and operations. We just did our annual planning session. You will have access to that and, of course, all of the materials to go through to start to line that out for your own business as we work together. So, messaging and lead generation. We want to increase your brand visibility and generate new leads who are ready to buy your products, not just posting on social media and hoping for sales. I really want you to understand the difference between content creation and visibility and lead generation. So, lead generation means that every month in your business, we're bringing makes it sound really aggressive, like we're dragging them in, but we're not. They're willingly coming into your pipeline. So, we're adding people to your email list who are interested in buying from you, or we're getting your product in front of other people's audiences so that where they are going to be the right fit buyer for you. And there's multiple types of lead generation. And we have a workshop that we've taught. And then there also is a curriculum section, a module in the curriculum where we go through this as well to make sure that you understand all of the options that are available to you. We don't want you to think that selling your products starts and ends with social media. I may have shared this previously, but in my product business, when I sold it, I had less than 400 followers. I also had less than 50 posts. I need you to do the math. I owned the business for 5 years. I posted less than 10 times a year in each year of the product business. It was not a component of my sales strategy. And that did not keep me from scaling very quickly and making it profitable enough that I was able to sell it when our sales trajectory was on an incline. So we'll help you to create magnetic messaging. So this makes your buyer think that you've read their mind and answer questions before they ask. I want you to learn to start to anticipate the questions they're asking, and we learn this together. We do this through other reading reviews, doing competitive research, doing marketing research, looking at keywords. And through that, we can really start to dial in what it is your customers are looking for and where you might be missing the mark in your messaging. We want you to establish yourself as an industry leader in your product category and an authority in your niche. You also will learn how to show up as the founder and the CEO of your business in order to access more opportunities and collaborations for your company. This is really important. And then finally, CEO mindset. Okay. I hesitated to talk about mindset for the first few years when I was consulting. And it was because it felt a little woo woo. But the reality is, establishing your mindset as that of a CEO, this really teaches you to have a lens through which you filter every decision that you're making in your business. This will teach you the skill of business first decision making. This changes everything. Your business is an entirely separate entity from you, and it needs its own structure, strategy, profitability to grow. When you do this, you'll start to really understand how to make that happen. And where currently you might be robbing the business of things that it needs because you are making personal problems or life problems business problems, and they're not. So we really start to separate the two so that you can really view this as a living, breathing entity that has its own needs, and we make sure that they are met. So you'll learn how to assess metrics and product performance really objectively, most importantly, without personalizing it or making it mean that something about you or something about your self-worth or that you've somehow failed if something is not selling. These are not true. These are not things that happen in your business are neutral. They're not reflections of you as a person, but it can feel that way because I think when you start a business, especially if maybe you're the only one running the business right now, it feels so close. It feels like your business is an extension of yourself, and it can really serve you to shift your mindset on that a little bit. It'll make it much more enjoyable to run the business, and you'll be making decisions as that of a CEO. So, also, we have a bonus course, and this is exclusively available inside Built to Scale. I don't offer this anywhere else. It is Wholesale Bootcamp. So, what we've done is created they're bite-sized lessons, so they're not super long, but this is the foundations of selling wholesale. So how to get your products and your brand retail ready, all of the sales assets that you need to sell wholesale. We talked about this in depth. The annual wholesale buying calendar selling and the blackout calendar. A lot of people that are trying to get traction in wholesale don't understand that there's actually blackout periods where you cannot be reaching out to retailers. And so you're getting ghosted because you're bothering them at the wrong time. The real reason you might not be getting wholesale orders right now, a month by month plan for wholesale growth, how to find sales reps to work with, and why you might be struggling to find sales reps, really starting to find and pitch right fit retailers, consistently getting reorders from sales, and kind of what you need to do to nurture the relationship because it's a lot of relationship building in wholesale. It's not transactional like retail. And then how your messaging, your positioning, and your product descriptions have to shift from retail to wholesale. So we'll get you dialed in on the retail side, and then we'll help you figure out where that needs to shift to accommodate the needs of wholesale customers because it is different. So if you have been struggling to get wholesale orders, it might be because you're trying to sell them the same way that you sell your retail customers. Pardon me for one second. Okay. So built to scale is 6 months of access and support. We're going to kind of go through everything included in the program. So we'll start with a business assessment and a priority plan. This is top to bottom in your business. This helps me understand where you are right now, what's working, and what the biggest opportunities for growth are. As soon as you join, you will have access to start filling out this business assessment so that on day one, we can hit the ground running. We have weekly live group coaching calls with replays. So this is where our clients experience breakthroughs, they get unstuck, they keep making progress week after week. These are not sad Q&A calls. If you have ever been in a program with them where no one attends, our attendance is very high. even if maybe they haven't had time to go through any curriculum, our clients make the time to show up for this call, because the information is so engaging. Learning from one another, hearing the questions that other people are asking, the strategies, because there's no one way to build a business. I say this frequently. So if you have been trying to use like the blueprint to scale your business, you may have built someone else's business. So it can be really helpful to hear how different industries and people who are at different stages in their business journey are making decisions, what they're encountering. It helps you to learn watchouts that are laying in the future. And we have clients that are at all revenue levels in here and sell at in all different distribution models. So some sell to distributors, some sell wholesale. Many are doing in-person markets right now, in addition to their e-commerce presence. So there's really a massive variety. We have like some brick and mortar stores in there, in addition to, so they do that, and then they also sell e-commerce. So you're hearing a lot of different types of business models and what's working. For example, last week we actually decided to talk about live selling. And so we had one of our clients who has a brick and mortar who sells really successfully by holding Facebook Live sessions, actually came in and shared a little bit about her process, and that made for a really interesting conversation. I also share, we'll kind of get to this, but I share behind the scenes what's happening in my business as well, and any resources and links on a regular basis so that you all can be learning from that as well. We have daily support in our coaching portal. So we have what's called a distraction-free coaching portal. So it's not like a really loud Facebook group. We're in Circle, and then there's a submission form for anything that you want to submit to me to either review or get coaching or feedback on. It's unlimited support. I answer Monday through Thursday. You can submit questions as often as you need them, and I usually answer in a Loom video. It is not uncommon to get a 10 to 20-minute Loom video from me. And it's posted in the portal so you can see everyone's videos, answering your questions, talking through your strategy, sharing my screen, things like that. Additionally, as you're working on your annual plan, you're building out your product line, you're changing your packaging, maybe you're getting new photos. Someone just submitted their fair listings to me the other day for review and feedback on. There is really nothing that you can't submit to this portal and get my feedback on and getting help with. So it's really personalized. It's one-on-one, delivered in a small group setting, because everything will be seen by the group. It's a very intimate group program. But it's basically, you have a distress signal that you can send at any time if you need something looked at, or you just need it could be mindset coaching, it could be questions about the curriculum, something that's happening in your business. There's really no limit here. Our quarterly planning session. So we do a designated guided session each quarter to help you lay out the quarter. We look back at your annual plan. We make decisions. We establish a monthly and weekly plan for your business. We don't want you showing up to work each day and wondering what you should be working on. It's the most horrible thing. You wake up, you feel overwhelmed in your chest because there's so much to do, but then you sit down to work and you're so overwhelmed that you don't know what to do. So you freeze. And then the next thing you know, someone wants you to decide what dinner is. The day is over, and then you're in a shame spiral because you haven't accomplished anything that you needed to do. And then you wake up the next morning, it starts all over again. And we really do not want that happening here for you. So we'll make sure that you always are clear on your next steps. Progress tracking and accountability. Okay, so we have a really robust client tracking system that I built out to track your milestones, document your results, and monitor what's happening in your business. I work very closely with you in this program. And that's why we limit the number of spots in each cohort. So you will actually have an opportunity to submit the monthly results in your business, what you're working on, kind of an update, so that when we get to the coaching calls, I already know what's happening in the business. I can see how your sales are performing, if something's changed since you made certain changes in the business. So I'm really up to date at any time. I remember being in a really high ticket mastermind. We're talking, I think it was, well, it felt high ticket to me at the time. Surely there's higher. It was maybe $18,000, 21,000, somewhere around there. And the coach will come to the calls and say, remind me what your business is again. And I was mortified for them. That is not the case here. I will always know the ins and outs of your business, between our onboarding information that we collect and then everything that's happening in the portal. I'm in it with you. So we're kind of in the boat together rowing. We have an on-demand curriculum portal. So the curriculum's taught through recorded video lessons that you can watch when it's most convenient for you, but they're short. So we do not belabor things. We teach the concepts there, and then we immediately get to work together implementing it. And then you can submit it to get feedback as you implement. And we talk about the results, we test, we shift, but we're doing all of this together. And then you'll have a private founder community. So we have a channel where you can connect with fellow founders in the program. As you learn and level up, you can compare notes, get peer feedback, share resources. It's a great place for people that are also very serious about building their business. If you've been relying on free open Facebook groups or forums for business advice, this is a great place to connect. And then we have a vendor vault. So this is a private curated directory of everything from like manufacturers and suppliers, co-packers, product photographers, accountants, things like that. So that you have a starting point when you're looking for resources like this inside your business. Okay, these are kind words from people who I have been working with and a chance for me to take a drink. Okay, so built to scale. It is 6 month program. The investment is $2,500, pay in full, or six payments of $500. So if you pay in full, you get a $500 discount. Hmm. Now, I need you to hear me on this because it's so cool, and I didn't believe it was true at first. You'll see that you have these two options at checkout. What is super cool is that if you pick the pay in full option, you get the $500 discount, but you can use Afterpay or Affirm to get a payment plan. So the payment plan will be with them. It won't be with us, where the six payments of 500, that's directly with our company. So it will give you the discount as if you paid in full, and then you can select how many payments you would like to pay from each of those providers. So that is something I just like to point it out to people because they're not always clear on how it works, but make sure you pick the pay in full option before you look at Afterpay and Affirm. But that can be a great option as well, and then you still get the discount. And I love a discount. Okay, the program dates, you will have 6 months access to everything in Built to Scale. So we start on Monday, February 23rd. We'll have your access to the portal to you before noon that day. And it goes through Thursday, August 20th. And so access to everything starts then. But as soon as you check out, you'll receive a confirmation email from us, and then you'll also receive your onboarding. So grab some coffee, sit down, spend some time with it, because that's really the business assessment so that I know exactly where you're starting from. So if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat now. While you do that, let's talk a little bit about the early bird bonus. Two, actually. So the first one, this is a 48-hour bonus. So it expires at 11:59 Central on Thursday, February 12th. So when you check out by then, you'll actually also get mastering fair in a day. So this is a 3-hour masterclass that I taught that's valued at $9.99. The idea is I really wanted to impart very quickly with you how you needed to optimize fair in order to start getting sales. I see there's people out there selling courses on this. You do not need a course. It is not that difficult to understand. Fair is actually a pretty easy platform to master if you know exactly how the algorithm works. So we want you to optimize, rank, and sell more wholesale. So basically, we've jam-packed into a 3-hour recorded workshop how the fair algorithm actually works. You're going to understand what fair rewards, which fields carry the most weight, and how to rank. How to do keyword research. So this is how you'll find the exact phrases that retailers are using to look for your products and how to use them to show up in the search results. Because remember, wholesale keywords are different than your direct to customer or your retail keywords. How to optimize your product listings. So every title, description, and photo matters. We want you to learn how to structure these listings to increase the visibility that you're getting and also conversions. And then how to write a product description for a stockist, not the end customer, because they are different. Photos that retailers would like to see of your products. We'll talk about how to optimize your storefront. Okay, this is one of the most important lessons in there. We want you to learn to have your brand name appear in search results, not just your product. And I actually teach you exactly step by step. And then we have a workbook that accompanies it. That when someone searches a term about your products, your brand appears instead of just prompting them with individual products to see. And you can make that change. It'll happen immediately. One of the most important things you can do to optimize your fair storefront. We want to improve where your products rank in search. So this is not about just uploading a product. we want to show up in the top results and we want you to stay there. So these are going to be the exact strategies that I use to make sure that I showed up in search results and I kept acquiring new stockists on a weekly basis on Fair. So I was not chasing anyone, they were coming to me. It is a semi-passive form of wholesale. And then how to attract more retailers. So we want to turn traffic into active orders. And this is, again, product positioning and more strategic messaging that targets the needs of the stockists and helps them with their buying process. This is something we'll talk about a lot about in the program. And I'll remind you what time of year you need to be talking to your retailers about certain things. We'll talk a little bit about how to leverage fair markets, because this is a big part of the hybrid wholesale environment that we talked about. And Fair tools and features. There are a ton. Fair is actually very forthcoming with what performs well on their platform, trends, products that are selling, keywords to be using. So I teach you and give you a link list inside the workbook of where all of these tools are and what they do so that you have them. We'll learn how to get your products to show up in the featured collections at the top of Fair's homepage, things like that. Okay, early bird bonus number two. Also, if you enroll by 11:59 on February 12th, this Thursday, is a one-on-one private strategy session. I love one-on-one calls. So we are going to kick off with a 45-minute private coaching and strategy session that is normally valued at $475. So we're going to map out your next steps. This is going to kick off our time together. If you do this, we will reach out to you on Monday, the 23rd, the first day of the program, and we'll give you a calendar link. You can pick the day of your one-on-one session. If you have a huge list of questions, bring them all. One big goal that you want to accomplish in your time together, we can tackle it and come up with a game plan. We can start to plan out your next 6 months if you would like to do that. But really, it's a chance to get direct feedback on what's currently working and not working inside your business. So it's kind of choose your own adventure, you decide, and we'll basically just dive right in and get to work together on this call. I'm really excited to offer this. Okay, do we have any questions while I take a drink? Okay, I have a couple of our most frequently asked questions I want to share with you. So, how much personalized support do I get from you, which is me? Um, so this program is designed to provide ample direct support from me in a small group setting. It's always me. So there will be no co-coaches coming in, or alleged experts answering questions from you. I host all of the coaching calls. I've been known to occasionally bring in a guest speaker if we have a special unplanned session, but I would still be there. And I personally provide all of the coaching on the coaching portal as well. So if there's things that you have that you want reviewed, say you need your Fair listing or an Amazon listing or your website listing, something like that looked at, it will be me who does it. I'll pull it up on the screen. We'll walk through it together. I'm the one doing the work. The support is unlimited, so you can ask for coaching as often as you want while you're in the program. And I really encourage you to use it. I want you to feel like you have sucked every penny out of your investment in this program, and really keep me up to date what's happening in your business all of the time. We work very closely here together. It's very fun. If you've ever been in a program where the support is a peer-led group, so maybe you go through curriculum and then you're sent into a Facebook group with other students that also don't know what's going on, this is not that. Very intimate setting. And so again, I get to know you and your business really well. Occasionally, my dog makes a special appearance. He's not with us today, sadly. Is my business ready for boats to scale, or should I wait until I'm further along? Okay, this comes up all of the time. So this time around, we actually have a couple of people that are very, very brand new, just started the business, and they will grow faster than people that have been in business because they have all of the experience that they're exposed to and all of this learning in advance. So they're not figuring anything out as they go along. They just know exactly what to do from step to step. So I always encourage that people jump in as soon as possible with this. It was designed to help you learn the foundations of a business that is literally built to scale. So as long as you have a product to sell, you're not too new. But like I said, again, I have two clients in there now, one who created the product for the first time and another who is getting ready to release her first products. It's probably the most helpful to them because they were able to avoid so many mistakes along the way. Remember, if you start to think I'll wait until later, what that actually means is I'll just keep doing what I've been doing and hope something magically changes. It's kind of a mindset issue that comes up for us. It won't. It's not going to change. So the reason that my business grew so quickly is because I learned strategies before I even opened the business. I was able to skip the missteps, the mistakes, like these newer clients I've mentioned, because I invested in a roadmap. So it's like having a cheat code to grow your business. And then how is Built to Scale different from other product-based programs? Because there's a handful out there, right? We have the most unique curriculum in the industry, but it's also the way that we address the business. So other programs for product-based businesses either target a single skill, single sales platform, or they're mainly focused on marketing, whereas we're helping you to create all of the operations and systems required to build and scale both the retail and the wholesale side of your business, which is rare as well. And it's not a course. Yes, we introduce all of the concepts with recorded curriculum because I want to teach you these skills and kind of give you this foundational knowledge. But this is at its core a coaching program, meaning that I come to meet you exactly where you are and support you with really personalized support, coaching, and feedback throughout the entire process. One other thing that I would note here is we don't do high level theory and concepts. We're this will tell you exactly what needs to happen. So we'll introduce these foundational concepts and why they're important and what you need to understand. And then we immediately get to work doing the work. So telling you to take step A, B, and C to get where it is that you need to go. And then you'll submit that for feedback to make sure that we fully understood each other on what needed to happen. And then we'll work together as you're testing and iterating because having a business is constant process of getting out there, trying things, testing them, getting results, reiterating and trying again. And so we'll do that together. On coaching calls, you can get support with anything that's taught inside Built to Scale or that's happening inside your business at the time. So, this is where you'll bring questions about how to implement what you're learning in the program as you work through it. But bring any problems, any challenges or issues that you're currently facing in the business and need help with while we are together. Don't ever, we would never decline any question on these calls. And I wanted to mention, what if you have a lot going on in your business and your personal life? So I extended, this was initially a 3 month program, and I extended it to be 6 months for the same price because we know that life and business will come up along the way. And in fact, we planned on it. So the curriculum is broken into really bite-sized lessons that you can watch whenever it's best for you. And then you can choose to attend the weekly calls for coaching, or you can just get coached asynchronously, which just means not at the same time, by using the coaching portal. And you can do that whenever it works best for you. So some people will just submit their questions through the coaching portal and then receive those video responses from me and keep moving forward because they just are not able to make the live calls. But also, there will likely be periods when you have to step away from it because there's never going to be a perfect set of circumstances in life or business where you can finally commit to growing your business. A lot of people keep kicking the can down the road. I will be there to support you while everything else is happening. And honestly, there's crying. I will be honest, there's crying on our coaching calls sometimes, but it's also because everyone, it is such an intimate environment and everyone is comfortable that they will share challenges or difficulties that are occurring in their life that are making it difficult to accomplish things in their business because the two are always happening at the same time. This is also why this is a program for women-based businesses, is I want it to feel very safe and comfortable for you to bring those challenges. There's kids on the call, there's dogs on the call, there chaos ensues at times. It's fine. Just show up however you are. This is the safe place for you to show up. If you need to fall apart, come and do it here. That's exactly what these calls are. We want to kind of be that lighthouse in the storm for you when you're dealing with things. You can't fall behind. So a lot of people worry about falling behind or having enough time. We say, you'll see on our sales page, to plan on 2 to 3 hours a week. That includes the live calls. If you want to consume curriculum and then start implementing in your business. But there will be times that you cannot. And that's why the program is longer than what you might think you need. And it was planned so that you can work through it at your own pace. So we'll provide you with a roadmap to follow, but you decide the speed that you consume things or start to implement things in your business. And it's also designed with accountability built in for this reason. So monthly accountability reports that we talked about, it helps us to spot dips or stalls so that you can get the coaching to get back on track. It helps me to know where you might need a little bit more help from me so that I can dive in. And because you have 6 months access to the core curriculum, you have more than enough time to go through everything without feeling rushed. We talked a little bit about how long it would take us each week. The biggest thing is we don't want this to become another thing for you to do. The coaching is front and center. It's about getting coaching, asking questions, sharing what's happening in your business, getting feedback, and implementing. We don't want you to feel overwhelmed, and that's why there's not an endless course curriculum included in this program. So, that is everything I have to share with you. Now, just as a reminder, you will have 2 days, 2.5 days, 48 hours. We call it 48 hours. It's a touch longer than that until midnight on Thursday, Central Time, to claim the two bonuses. So, again, you will get the one-on-one 45-minute planning strategy session call. And then also access to Fair in a Day, the 3 hour recorded workshop, and the workbook on completely overhauling and optimizing your Fair shop. So, if you have any questions for me, you are welcome to schedule. We'll be sending out a link if you want to schedule a consult call. Some people prefer to ask questions privately, or maybe you want to discuss if the program is going to be a right fit for you. And on that call, we'll do an assessment of everything that's currently happening in your business. You can share that with me. And then I will put together a treatment plan for you so you can start to understand kind of in real time what we would initially focus on your business based on what's happening there right now. So check your inbox for a link to schedule those calls if you would like us to talk privately, but you're also welcome to DM me on Instagram. I love a voice note, and we can chat there as well if you don't have time for another call on your calendar. So thank you so much all for coming today. I'm so grateful to have you here, and we will talk soon. I hope to see you inside Built to Scale.